What house is Cancer for the U.S.? I believe it's the 8th.
Yeah, it would be the 8th because the Sibley chart has it that it is a Sag rising.
And Capricorn, Pluto is in the 2nd, and it just moved into the 3rd. That 8th house stellium definitely makes a lot of sense, though, for America.
Yeah, the exalted Jupiter in the 8th.
Going through it definitely makes a lot of sense. Good questions, though. So we are about to transform, truly.
Yeah, we're in the process. Well, and every time that Uranus has been in Gemini, like it was in Gemini during the Revolutionary War and when the United States became a country, and then it returned to Gemini in the 1860s, which was a major existential crisis for the United States with the Civil War. And then it returned to Gemini in the 1940s, which was kind of the next huge existential crisis and shifts that the US experienced. And now it's coming back to Gemini next month, I believe on July 6th. So the last 3 times were really, really major events in US history. It is interesting to wonder what will happen now with this upcoming Gemini ingress, which I guess would be in the 7th house as well, which probably makes sense why there's wars regularly, because the 7th house can have to do with enemies.
Yeah, open enemies.
Okay, I'm live on YouTube again. Hopefully you guys can hear me now. I have Lori here. I'm still trying to figure out how to get her to be visible on the screen. YouTube is
we're doing fine.
So difficult, but we are talking. We're also live on YouTube, and folks were asking about transits to the US chart, and we were just talking about activations and how that will look for the United States this year. But if anyone has any questions or any chart examples they want us to unpack, please comment down below.
Yeah, the U.S. chart is a really interesting topic, especially how crazy this year has been. Like with every planet moving this year, every planet retrograding this year, all the outer planets moving into masculine signs. It's just been crazy energy after crazy energy.
Yeah, everything's speeding up. Because, it's like the outer planets, like Uranus spends 8 years in a sign, and Neptune spends 14, and Saturn spends 3 years, and Pluto's between 12 and 24. And it's not normal for them to all change signs within the same 12-month period. But right now, they're all changing signs within the same 12-month period, and they really speak to generational shifts. So to have them all move is just like, we can all feel that collectively, that like the world is changing so much and so rapidly. And astrology affirms it. And I really think this year, most of the planets are dipping into their new signs and then returning to the signs they've been for the past decade or so. So this year is really a good preview of what to anticipate for the next couple decades, quite honestly. And Uranus is now the last one. All the others have changed signs. So we just need Uranus to join. But pay attention to world events.
Honestly, it's not even 12 months. It's 6. Like just since January, all of these things have shifted.
Pluto was in November.
It moved in January.
Oh, was that the last one back into
Aquarius? Yeah.
Wow. You're so right. You're so right. Yeah, 6 months.
It does feel like it was like forever ago. So much happening. It's a very, very weird year. Lots of speed.
Mm-hmm. Am I gone again?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I could like airdrop this onto my computer and then I could screen share. Because I want you. I feel like the YouTube folks can only see me.
Honestly, that's okay. They can hear me.
Uh-huh.
Does anyone on YouTube have any questions? Or does anyone on here also have any other questions? We also would love to know what people want to learn more about. We've been recording a ton of episodes for season 2, so any suggestions on what you might want an episode on, or anything astrology related, or any gods or goddesses that have an asteroid that you want to know more about too. I also just started a Substack where I've been posting a lot of my asteroid stories, so that's been fun too. Okay, I want to learn more about transits, either personal or collective.
Yeah. We haven't done an episode about transits. I feel like one of the most important things that I always think about with transits is distinguishing them from the natal chart, because like where the planets are in your natal chart is your natal promise, and you have your entire life to live out the archetypal experiences and like multiple different iterations of what it means to have planets in a certain house or sign or aspect to each other. But then a transit is temporary. So, like right now, Jupiter transiting through Cancer is a year of us all experiencing growth and expansion. Hopefully a little bit of luck and optimism as well in the Cancer house of our charts. And so if you don't have any planets in Cancer, there could be an extra focus on Cancer for you that you don't have your whole life. Which, when transits are good, it can be kind of a bummer that they're temporary. But then I find it really comforting when we're in the middle of a difficult transit to know that like it will end. Like a difficult aspect in your chart, you can learn how to deal with it, but it will always be present. But then a difficult transit does have an end date. So that is one way that I really differentiate the two techniques.
Yeah, and of course there's so many really amazing timing techniques. Transits are kind of like the best place to start when you're looking at timing, because they do affect everybody. But they affect everybody so differently, and it really matters so much the nuance of everybody's charts as well. Are there countries that are on the opposite of the US, opposite trajectory? And is Jupiter in Cancer a good thing compared to when it was in Gemini? Yes. I'll start with the Jupiter question.
Mm-hmm.
At least for Alicia and I, we both have Jupiter as our Time Lord this year. And I can speak for myself. Once I moved into my birthday and Jupiter became my Time Lord, it has been so difficult to have a Time Lord that was in detriment in my 12th house. It just felt like the themes of 12th house were coming up again and again. I kept getting staph infections. I kept having like weird hospital visits, which is so 12th house. And I usually don't really have health things, so that was a new one for me. But Jupiter also rules my 6th house as well as my 9th. And I was in a 9th house. I am in a 9th house perfection year. And so that transit of Jupiter moving through Gemini was hard. It was a lot. But now that it's moved into Cancer, Cancer is my ascendant. It's my 1st house. It's exalted. I have a lot of cardinal placements. I don't really have any mutable placements. So besides trining a couple things early on in that transit, because that was good when it was trining my Aquarius stuff, and then when it was trining my Jupiter in Libra, that felt really good. But that's all early degrees for me. So I just felt like that end of that transit was just like, oh my God, come on, let's go. And so, yeah, I think it's very nuanced, though. I also have a day chart. I think you have to kind of look at a lot of the different pieces of the puzzle. Alicia, Jupiter is her Time Lord this year, too.
Mm-hmm.
And I have other friends. I have another good friend who it's her Time Lord as well, and it was transiting through her 6th house. So she was having basically the same experience as me. So it's definitely, you have a day chart too. Do you know what perfection year you're in? Or you can also answer how old you are. No idea. How old are you this year? 31. Okay. So 31 is an 8th house perfection, and then 32 will be a 9th house. I'm also 32, so that's where I'm at as well. What is your ascendant? Scorpio. Okay. So Scorpio would have a Cancer 9th house. So yeah, Jupiter's moving through your 9th house, so that's going to be cute. The moon will be your time lord for next.
Once you turn 32.
Once you turn, yeah.
Yeah. And we have an episode about annual perfections out with our podcast.
Yeah.
So if this is a newer technique to you, it's one of the more recent episodes we've released, and it's like a very simple technique that works really well to tell just to tell major timing activations for you. So we would definitely recommend you check that out. And also hi to everyone on YouTube who's been joining us. Lori and I are not the most tech savvy people, so thank you for
Clearly.
And hopefully this is okay that it's like she's in Ohio and I'm in Oregon, so she's on my phone and I'm just right here. But if anyone has any questions or any astrology questions, or if they have any chart examples or their chart that they want to share and have us take a look at, we're just chatting about astrology, chatting about our new season of our podcast. And Lori's live on TikTok, so we've been chatting with some folks about transits in particular and annual perfections. So yeah, thanks for joining us. And one other thing I'll say about annual perfections and transits is that annual perfections is a really helpful technique for sorting out which transits are the most significant to you, because like astrology just has so much data. And with your annual perfections, you're able to identify who is your time lord for the year. Like Lori and I are both in Pisces perfection years, and so Jupiter's our time lord. And so paying attention to transits with transiting Jupiter, as well as if there's any transits to our natal Jupiters in our charts, that is really significant for us, which is fun because Jupiter just entered Cancer. Whereas if you're in, a Gemini perfection year, like the person we're chatting with on TikTok, then really paying attention to Mercury transits and transits to your natal Mercury, those will be a little bit louder for you, like Mercury retrogrades and whatnot. So yeah, annual perfections really helps you sort which transits are the most important to be listening to.
And yeah, to answer a question here, she said, so now I'm ruled by Mercury. I wouldn't look at it as you're ruled by Mercury. You are still ruled by Mars, but Mercury would be an honorary time lord. So it's basically like an honorary chart ruler for the year. It's like your most important planet that's lit up by timing technique that year. Yeah, she said, no wonder I'm being so indecisive this year. Yes. And she also asked, where are the episodes? So we are all over the place. We do post on Spotify. We post on YouTube. Anywhere that you listen to podcasts, you can find us. It's called Conversations with the Planets. We do have an Instagram handle as well, or an account, whatever. And both of us post about it on there. I post on my TikTok account too sometimes. But yeah, you can listen to us anywhere. And we've done a couple episodes on these techniques. So it's a really good one though. Annual perfections are probably my favorite technique to use. And probably one of the ones that, like, when I start any reading, one of the first things I make sure I ask, or I do the math or whatever, I'm always asking their age so that I can figure out who their Time Lord is and what their Time Lord's doing, because that's such a big, important piece of the reading.
Yeah, and annual perfections are so easy to calculate. Like, it's really just when you're 0, 12, 24, 36, etc., you're in a first house perfection year, and then every year on your birthday, you perfect or move forward 1 year. So if you're 28, you're in a 5th house year. If you're 33, you're in a 10th house year. And then just using whole signs to, like, the whole sign house system to determine what zodiac sign that is, and then who is the ruler of that for the Time Lord. It's so simple and it's so potent. So definitely encourage folks to explore that technique, because it's really easy to use and it gives you a lot of good meaning.
Yeah, and she said, I wonder if I'm going to emotionally crash out through a moon for perfection year. Honestly, as a person who's ruled by the moon anyway, there is a lot of ups and downs emotionally. You are going to have a little bit of a roller coaster in your emotional body. But it's not all bad. I mean, I'm an Aries moon that I'm ruled by, so maybe it's also partially that. But I always kind of like to joke, if I'm in a bad mood or if something like difficult is happening, I can usually like give it a day or even just a few hours and it's gone. I feel like with being ruled by the moon, it's really easy to let go of things and not get, stuck or like holding on to things. It's pretty easy to just be like, okay. And then you're going to have some ups and downs. But
although I will say that is also, do you see how my camera, I think that's just on YouTube. But I will say that also is because your moon is in Aries. So Aries is able to let go of things quickly. If you had a moon in a fixed sign, you might feel things hold on a little bit more.
That's very true. Yeah. Where is your moon? Leo moon. Okay, cool. Yeah, Leo might hold on a little bit more, but also, even though it's fixed, it's still fire. So I feel like fire still, it's not like Taurus.
Or Scorpio. I feel like my Scorpio moon friends just like hold on to emotions.
Forever.
But the moon also can make things come very quickly, which can be nice because she is constantly changing signs and connecting all of the planetary bodies. So having things move quickly in your Cancer year can also sometimes be welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, learning to kind of just go with the flow is a big Cancer thing, especially with the moon. I have noticed, I remember our friend Matthew, who's been on a couple of our episodes now that we haven't posted yet. He made a comment to me once that every time the moon is in Scorpio, he crashes out, like he has a bad day, or like he's just noticed that the moon being in Scorpio is really difficult. And so anytime I've had emotional like difficulties, I've started to pay attention, and he was right. It's like almost always every month when the moon is in Scorpio. So that kind of made me laugh too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a Scorpio stellium, so I definitely noticed the moon in Scorpio. But yeah, paying attention to where the moon is in the sky, because it changes signs every 2.5 days. That is just like a really great astrology learning tool, first of all, to just feel like, oh, okay, this is what Scorpio feels like. This is what Sagittarius feels like. And the moon, as the closest celestial body to us, is the one who translates all of the other astrological energies down to Earth. So looking at, the past few days, the full moon in Sagittarius, the moon could see Mars and Saturn by aspect in the sky, but the moon actually couldn't see Jupiter or Venus by aspect in the sky. So we didn't have as much like benefic support. And now that the moon's moved into Capricorn, the moon's opposite Jupiter, opposite Mercury, in a trine to Venus. And so you can also know, like, depending on where the moon is, that can tell you which planets have more of an influence on us every day. So yeah, it can be really, I just look on astro.com every morning when I wake up and I'm like, oh, okay, the moon's here. And like when I woke up this morning, she was exactly opposite Mercury and pretty closely trine Venus. And now she's going to move on. And yeah, I don't really know who else she's talking to later today, but she'll still be in those conversations. And hi, everyone on YouTube who just joined us. Lori and I are live celebrating our new podcast season release. So if you have any questions, please put them down below. Sorry for the little bootleg technology. We're not the most tech savvy people.
We're both struggling.
But she's live on TikTok as well. We're both in different locations. But we're really happy that you're here with us. And if you have any questions, if you want us to take a look at your chart, just drop some comments down below.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, she said, my mom is a Taurus moon, and it annoys me how much she can't let go of a grudge.
Yeah, for sure. Fixed moons are stubborn. Well, and then her Taurus moon would square your Leo moon. So there's also a kind of a little bit of a tension between the two energies.
Yes. Oh. Somebody invites me to co-host. I don't know what that means. We're really good at this.
Yeah. Well, we just got to keep doing it and then we'll get better.
I know. It's our first live, guys.
It is our first live.
Yes. Well, if you're new here, because it looks like we have a few people. How many do we have on YouTube?
We have 2. But hi to the folks on YouTube. It looks like someone just jumped on. We're doing a Q&A for astrology. So if you have any questions, please write them down below. We've been talking about transits and annual perfections.
Yeah. We're also celebrating the release of our season 2 of our podcast today. And our Artemis episode.
Yeah, we have a new Artemis episode available on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Our podcast is called Conversations with the Planets. And we have an episode all about the goddess Artemis. And yeah, hi there. Love yourself first. Thanks for coming and joining us. If you have any astrology questions, please just write them down below or just hang out with us. But yeah, the episode's all about Artemis and what it means if you have the asteroid Artemis prominent in your chart and how to work with her goddess energy. We visited some temple sites to Artemis back in Greece in September. And so we're really excited about this episode.
Yeah, I'm really excited about a lot of the ones that we've recorded. And we also love feedback. We love to hear from you guys. If anybody is wanting a specific episode on anything particular, we're happy to create it.
Yeah, for sure. We have next week, we have an episode about Orpheus that we're releasing with our friend Matthew, which is really fun, talking about the Orphic hymns and Orphism and the mythology of Orpheus. We have an episode about planetary magic and particularly how to merge astrology and herbalism, because I'm an herbalist. So there's ways to intuitively work with correspondences. We have a lot of different asteroid stories. We have ways to work with the houses in astrology. We just recorded an episode yesterday with our friend Cam about the tropical and sidereal zodiac and why it's really helpful to work with both systems. So yeah, we have some really exciting episodes this season, but if anyone has any specific asteroids or techniques or anything they want to learn more about, let us know and we will definitely record an episode.
Yeah. And just to plug with the asteroid conversation, I did start a Substack too, so I'm going to be posting a bunch of the stories I've been finding. I've been collecting stories for a book for about 4 years now, and I finally just decided to take the stories out of the book because it's an encyclopedia and it's 600 plus pages without the stories. So the stories had to go somewhere else, so it wasn't 2,000 pages. But I've been posting them on Substack, and so if you subscribe to that, you'll get an email every time I post one of the stories. And I've also been posting a little bit of how to work with some of the specific asteroids and how to interpret with them and understand the goddess energy, because most of the ones I'm talking about are goddesses.
Yeah, so exciting. And working with the asteroids is just such a great way to just get more familiar with which myths and mythology you live out through your life. And it can be really therapeutic to learn the stories of the asteroids that are prominent in your chart. And, like we're all just living these kind of cosmic threads that are all woven together. And when you can see the connections that your chart has to these bigger stories, it can bring a lot of relief to maybe like sadder parts about your life or harder things, as well as give you a lot of clarity and direction about where the focus of energy is in your own birth chart. So we have an Asteroids 101 episode we released last season that talks all about how to work with the asteroids and what they mean and how to look up asteroids in your chart. And then we've just released a ton of different asteroid stories about, Rhea and Chariklo and underworld deities like Persephone and Ceres and Adonis. And then today with Artemis. So if there's any specific asteroids, if people have any stories of asteroids prominent in their charts, or if they want to know about any specific asteroids, please let us know. And
we do have,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Lori.
Well, I was just going to say we do have a couple good questions, but if you want to finish your thought first.
I just wanted to say hi to the folks who've joined us on YouTube recently, and we're doing a Q&A, so if you do have any astrology questions, please drop them below, and Lori's live on TikTok, so yeah, Lori, do you want to share the TikTok questions?
Yeah, so we do have one about astrocartography, which I'll come back to, and then there's another one about, it says, how do you know which asteroid is most important when you're looking at your chart? And that's a super complicated question. We actually are about to get a software called Nichepso soon, hopefully. And they are going to have a feature on there where you can actually pull all 30,000 asteroids in your chart. We were given that at Demetra's retreat as well, for our own charts, and it's just kind of in list form. But what I personally have been working on is trying to separate the mythic asteroids. Yeah, 30,000 of them, I know. There's too many, and a lot of them just have names. So actually, your name is Carina. I know that there is a Carina asteroid. So you should pull that. You should go look at that. I can send you the number of it later. I'll look it up. But what I typically do is, like, if there's a story I resonate with, I go to just Google and I'll be like, hey, what is Carina asteroid number? And it'll tell you a number, and then you just copy paste it into astro.com. Unfortunately, that's our best resource right now. Me and my partner, and then my friend who I'm doing the asteroid research group for NCGR with, we talked about trying to create a software or a program or some sort of app or something at one point to pull them easier. But then we found out Nichepso is doing it, and honestly, I'm happy enough with them doing it. But yeah, it's more so on resonance now. But what I've been trying to do, going back to that, is pull out all of the mythic ones. So all of the asteroids that are named for like Greek myth, and all the ones named for Roman myth, and all of the ones named for Egyptian or the Norse pantheon. There's so many different pantheons of characters and stories and all of these myths that you can kind of just use to pull, just kind of how like we use Mars as Aries, right? If you know the story of Aries or Venus or any of the myth behind the planets, it's very, very similar. You can kind of just watch these things show up in your own life. But then a lot of them, like I was saying, just kind of have human names. Whoever discovers the asteroid gets to name it. So a lot of them are just named like Steve or Bob.
And I'll say, if you find an asteroid that is within a 3-degree orb of your sun, moon, or rising sign, those are particularly influential because those are the points of life in your chart. So like for the Artemis episode that was just released today, I have Artemis conjunct my Mars. So that influences my 2nd and 7th houses. But if I was, a Scorpio or Aries rising, then it would be more prominent because then Mars would be in charge of me as opposed to just specific areas of my life. But your sun, moon, and rising have everything to do about your whole life. So those asteroids can be the most prominent as far as how to sort priority.
Yeah, I definitely feel like sun, moon, rising, but then also the angles in general and the and your chart ruler. So like as a Scorpio rising, you would look at Mars.
And I also just got a question that's pretty easy to answer of someone asking if Jupiter's in their 11th or 12th this year, and they're a Leo rising. And so Jupiter was in Gemini from May of last year until this past Monday. And so Jupiter has been moving through your 11th house, and then it just moved into Cancer. So it just entered your 12th house, and it will be in your 12th house until next June. So it was in both houses, but it's now switched and moved into your 12th. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah. Yes. So I typically look at a 3-degree orb, planet equals asteroid equals deity correlations. Yes. So, and if you listen to any of our asteroid episodes, we talk a lot about that. So like, I'm trying to think of an example because there's so many, but yes, like Artemis is the goddess of, hunting, and she rules over children or childbirth. And so, yeah, you can definitely look at it like that. And then, I've seen, I have Artemis conjunct my Venus, and when I was a kid, I loved archery. It can be something as simple as that. I do see a lot of correlations that are very similar to that. But a 3-degree orb usually means that they're going to show up really prominent. But you could use a 5, maybe even 8-degree orb if it's your sun or moon, I think, especially. If you resonate with it, like I've had so many crazy stories about Persephone in my chart, and she's like 6 or 7 degrees from my sun. I think 6. But like, I count it because it's been really crazy how she's shown up. But I also have the Proserpina asteroid conjunct my Saturn, and that's her Roman name. So I feel like if you have both, like Artemis and Diana, the Greek and the Roman name, but the same character, you might find stuff like that sometimes too.
Yeah, like these are guidelines to just help sort through all the data, but if it feels resonant and significant to you, that's what matters the most, not what the rules or guidelines are.
Yeah, absolutely. There's somebody in here posting a lot of spam.
What was the astrocartography question?
Oh, yes, I did. Let me go back to that.
And hi to the folks who just joined on YouTube. We are doing a Q&A, so if you have any questions, please just drop them down below about astrology in particular.
Yeah. What about astrocartography? If you move, what should you look out for? So I feel like astrocartography is one of those things that everybody does a little bit differently. How I prefer to do it is remembering to keep your own chart in mind. I see a lot of videos on TikTok especially where people are like, oh, if you want to fall in love, move to your Venus line. But if you're Alicia, and well, Venus is your chart ruler, but if you have that, maybe that's not a great example, but if you don't have a happy Venus, then moving to your Venus line might not bring you a partner.
And really a partner would actually be your 7th house ruler.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. It's so much more nuanced, but if you really understand your chart,
well,
then yeah.
And I'll also say Jason Hawley just gave a really good lecture at NORWAC about relocated charts, and that can be a good thing to look at too. Because, like Lori said, always coming back to your natal chart, because the philosophy is that when you take your first breath and you come into the world, you become like a talisman for what the planets were doing at that time and location of your birth. So the location of your birth always matters for your natal promise. But then pulling your birth chart as a relocated chart for wherever you live, if you live somewhere different than you were born, or if you're going on a trip, looking at your relocated chart for that location, which most astrology softwares will just have an option for a relocated chart. It can be really interesting to see, like, maybe Jupiter's in your 8th house, and then in this location, it's put up on your 10th, and you're pulled into more of a teaching role. Or for me, my Mercury was above the horizon where I was born, and then it's under the horizon where I live. So looking at how a relocated chart for where you live differs from what your natal chart is, and how that environment of where you're living might influence your chart in different ways, can be really, really interesting to work with.
Yeah, especially if you're staying somewhere for longer.
Mm-hmm.
It says, so first you need to check which placements in your chart are favorable. It's weird that where I'm moving has the same astrocartography as where I am now. Yeah, if you follow the line all the way down, then that would make sense. That it would be the same. Sometimes they even curve, so you might like end up over here, but it's still the same line. But yeah, I wouldn't even think of it as like what is most favorable, but it's like, what are you doing? Like if you're taking a solo retreat, like a silent retreat to go heal, then maybe going to your Saturn or Pluto or Chiron line or something wouldn't be so bad, because you're kind of like going for that purpose anyway. But if you're like going and hoping to make a lot of money and you have a well-placed Jupiter in your chart, maybe go to your Jupiter MC line, right?
Mm-hmm.
So also paying attention to what angle it is as well.
And just holding capacity, like, I was born in 95, so I have Jupiter in Sag, which is a very strong Jupiter with a lot of potential. And then most of my friends ended up being born with Jupiter in Capricorn, who has just a little less juice to give them. So just holding capacity for the dignity of the planet in your chart, like, it still comes back to the natal promise. So if you're trying to make a bunch of money, but you don't have a particularly strong Jupiter, then moving to your Jupiter line might not bring you as much potential as moving to somewhere where, if you have a more dignified planet, moving to a place where that planet's line is prominent might be more supportive for you. Because it's always the natal promise, like your birth chart's your birth chart. Like it can kind of modulate based off of where you live, but it doesn't change the natal promise that is inherent in your birth chart.
Yeah. Do you have Jupiter in Scorpio? It says there's a Jupiter conjunct Mars in the 12th. Or is it in Libra? Because if you're about to be 32, it could still be in Libra.
I'm going to have to pop off, but Lori, I mean, if you want to just stay on TikTok and chat with folks, I feel like you have a good setup. But I have to go tour a house, so I have to go.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but thanks everyone for joining us, and please listen to our new Artemis episode, and we'll be dropping new episodes every Thursday on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts at Conversations with the Planets. So go ahead and follow us to get updates when we do release every episode. And thank you, Love Yourself First, for joining us on YouTube. It was great to have you. Bye, everyone.
Yeah, I'm going to pop off too, but bye-bye, everybody. Thank you for joining us.